Okay, welcome. I'm Liz Williams. I'm the founder of Awe Partners, a social impact advisory firm that lifts up women and girls around the globe. And in celebration of Women's History Month, we are hosting a week of interviews with amazing women who are dedicated to making the world a better place. And today we have with us Claire Davenport. I'm so excited to speak with you, Claire. Claire is the global coordinator of Ashoka's Women's Initiative for Social Entrepreneurship. That's WISE, W-I-S-E, a framework for elevating the number, knowledge, and power of women social entrepreneurs. In this position, she is also the community manager of the ChangemakHERS, H-E-R-S, I love that name too, the ChangemakHERS platform, an online space for women innovators in Ashoka's network to connect, collaborate, and grow. She began her career with Ashoka on the Arab World Partnership team, and she currently works and resides in Cairo, Egypt. Before joining the Ashoka team, Claire worked in the Advancement and Communications Department at the American University in Cairo. Her alma mater is Tulane University, where she majored in English and political science. She is passionate about writing and has creative and research pieces published in the Cairo Review, the World Economic Forum's Davos Agenda, and Medium. Welcome, Claire. I'm so happy to be with you today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me to join this series.
Absolutely. And we're just going to note now, as we said, Claire is in Cairo. And so sometimes the connection is not always perfect. So if we have any issues, you'll know that's the reason, and we'll work through them. So let's start. We're going to kind of start big, and then we're going to go really narrow. I want to just start with Ashoka. Can you explain what Ashoka is for people that might not be familiar with the organization?
Certainly. So Ashoka is the largest global network for social entrepreneurs in the world. We have over 3,600 fellows that we fund operating in over 90 countries. So we're quite global, and I work for Ashoka Arab World, which operates in 11 countries in the Arab region. And what Ashoka does is we fund these social entrepreneurs, and we provide them with support services and really help them scale their work and really help them deepen their impact. And I can give a little bit of history. Ashoka, the first office was actually founded in India back in the 1980s, and the founder, Bill Drayton, who was traveling at the time, he really wanted to take the risk-taking approaches he saw being very successful in the private sector and apply them to the public sector. So he had been working at McKinsey at the time, and he saw that there was all this impact being generated, but within private sector spaces. So he thought, why not take these risk-taking approaches and apply them to the public sector? And so that was really where the concept of social entrepreneurship was born. Ashoka was actually the first organization to coin the term. And since then, it's really grown. Yeah.
I did not.
I don't think that many people know that. Yeah. Bill Drayton was the founder of the term, and since then it's grown into quite an ecosystem. And for us as well, that's something else I would say that Ashoka focuses on, is not only supporting the social entrepreneurs within our network, but really building this nation ecosystem. We really see social entrepreneurship as the way forward to solving today's pressing global issues. And so we're really working to create more networks and really build what social entrepreneurship can accomplish globally.
I love that, and I couldn't agree more. I absolutely think social entrepreneurship is the way forward. That's why I'm so excited for our conversation. I want to ask two questions, and the first is, can you define a social entrepreneur? And I think it's important for the audience to know that there's not, at least, or correct me if I'm wrong, there's not like, if you went to the dictionary, a specific definition that everyone uses. They're different depending on the organization. The definition might be different, but what is the definition for Ashoka? And then with your Ashoka fellows, how does that process work? I know there's an application process, so what happens there?
Certainly, yeah. So the word entrepreneur is actually a French word, and we define it as a venture or a person, someone who's really addressing structural problems in the work that they solve. And I'm really glad you brought up this point because I think people all the time are a little bit confused. Entrepreneurship is quite associated with the business sector. So it's very important for us to frame it within the concept of the social sector and social impact. So for us, these social entrepreneurs are innovative, like-minded individuals who are really thinking at a systems changing level and are also willing to take risks. And so the fellows that we fund, that's why it's important for us to fund individuals, because we're not just about supporting a specific project or initiative, but really supporting the person leading that project. So whether they want to start a new initiative or scale a new country or start entering a new field, we want to support that and we want to support that work. And the Ashoka process, I can say, it's quite long and a little bit complex, but it's important for us because we really want to make sure that the people we're electing are truly innovative and truly what we talk about when we talk about a social entrepreneur. So they must be passionate and they must have local solutions to local problems. And we want it to be the causes that they work on, not only employment, but really a full-time vocation for them, a full-time life passion. So we have a process. We actually have nominators networks all throughout the globe with people who are working within the innovation ecosystem, including our fellows who can nominate other individuals for our fellowship program. And we fund individuals who are at an inflection point in their work because our value added is really to help them scale and to really help them take that work to the systems changing level. So we're looking not to work with seed funding, but really people who are established, have a specific set of beneficiaries and are looking to scale. And then we take them through this process where they're first interviewed by a panel. We have a second opinion interviewer, and then they're reviewed by our global board. And we have 5 really key criteria we look at when we're looking for Ashoka Fellows. The first one is ethical fiber, which of course is quite important for any social venture. Creativity, leadership. We're also really looking to fund individuals with new ideas to problems so we can really create innovation within the ecosystem. And then that entrepreneurial quality, that spark that really makes someone stand out in their leadership capabilities. And then of course, most importantly, the social impact that they're leading, what impact this has on society. And for me, this is especially important and something I'll be delving into a little bit more later with WISE, because I think social impact is so often misunderstood and the way we understand it and the way we define it, especially with women social entrepreneurs. So that's something I can get into a little bit more later.
Perfect, and we're going to segue into that. But before we do, I just want to ask one other question, which is do you elect fellows annually, and how many each year, or how many each cycle?
We're always trying to elect as many fellows as we can, actually. So there's no cycle. We're always just looking to get more people in our network and have it be as large as possible. We are an NGO, so we work with funders to provide the stipend for those fellows. So we provide them with 3 years of funding on top of those support services. So we're always looking to increase our funding. We're always looking to increase the money we can bring to those individuals and the support services we can offer. So there's no cap in as many we can bring into the movement.
Oh, I love that. That's terrific. Okay, so yeah, let's shift a bit to both your WISE initiative and ChangemakHERS, which are focused on female social entrepreneurs. So tell me a bit about that.
Yes, so the Women's Initiative for Social Entrepreneurship was actually an idea that was started by Dr. Aman Bibars, who works with me at Ashoka. She was the founder of the Ashoka Arab World Office, and she's also vice president at Ashoka globally. And Dr. Mann in 2011 was really thinking through this trend she saw within the ecosystem, which was that time and time again, women social entrepreneurs who she knew, who she's worked with before, were leading projects that really changed mindsets and changed norms. But she was also seeing that these women were having trouble pitching these projects to potential investors. They were having trouble explaining their impact, and they were having trouble getting the resources and funding that they deserve. And so she began to think through this and think to herself, why are these women not getting supported? Why is this not being recognized? And so the idea of scaling deep was born. And we define scaling deep as really that sort of impact where someone is changing mindsets, patterns of behavior, social norms, structures, cultures. And this is a form of impact women tend to lead. And in 2018, Ashoka globally ran an impact study where we interviewed over 900 fellows within our network. And we asked them questions about the structures of their project, their beneficiaries, what forms of impact they lead. And what we found was that women were more likely to work collaboratively. They were more likely to work within a smaller, more specific community. Their focus was way more likely to be on changing mindsets, and they were way more likely to work horizontally and to have their beneficiaries also on their team. So this is all related to scaling deep impact. So then taking it from there, what we want to do with WISE is to change these current definitions of success that really bar women social entrepreneurs who are leading this form of impact, from access to funding, from advancement, from their projects being recognized and understood and supported. And along this journey, we realized that there's another form of impact as well that is quite undervalued, and that's what we call scaling up, which is changing laws and policies. And so many of our women fellows, for instance, were quite involved with the process of getting the UN SDGs realized, but that's something that's harder to quantify. And Dr. Men saw this in her own work. She had worked in Egypt to change the nationality law here, and she realized that when thinking through all the women and children who were impacted by this law, it was thousands and thousands, but that's harder to quantify because a legal change will affect all the generations that come. It's not something you can summarize in a single report. So that's what we really mean when we talk about scaling up and scaling deep. So the Women's Initiative for Social Entrepreneurship really aims to elevate the number, knowledge, and power of women social entrepreneurs, and do this through the lens of reframing social impact. Something else we've seen is that only 40% of our network is women, and that's the largest of any social innovation network. And so that's a question we're asking ourselves is, why is it not 50? Why is it not more? And why is that the most? That women are represented within any social network. What can we do to change that? And as we're already the leader with women in our space, how can we continue to bring that forward? And so what we want to do is work on the systems level to change these current definitions of success, but then on a day-to-day basis, work to advance the women who are already leading this form of impact. So we aim to provide support services to women in our network to help them connect with one another, collaborate with one another, and to really use the same strategies that they're using within their work to benefit them. So throughout all of the work we do with WISE, we try to scale deep ourselves. We try to think through, how can we change mindsets? How can we change patterns of behavior? How can we bring more people into the fold of this movement so that these mindsets can be shifted on an ecosystem level? And what services can we provide to these women to really do that in a very holistic way? So we have quite a number of projects under WISE, and I can take a pause here if there's any project you would like me to go more specifically into. But we're doing many different pieces of work to really advance this.
Yeah, no, I would love to hear, and please go ahead and share. And my only question is, because I think when you talk about, I don't know if it's the WISE initiative or ChangemakHERS initiatives, this is not only for Ashoka fellows who are women, right? That you've got kind of a larger network that you're actually incorporating into these initiatives. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we really want to change how the entire innovation ecosystem is working with women. So we are here to change the definitions of success, not just for our fellows, but for all women. Yeah. For us, that's a systems level change and a structural level change. And we're also trying to bring women in philanthropy spaces, women in media spaces, women in academic spaces into this movement as well, because all of those sectors within the ecosystem are critical to be on board to really change these definitions. So for us, that's very important. And for me, that's very important too, that this not just be for a specific group, but be for everyone. And I think that that's something Ashoka values as well, having a model that isn't about advancing specific people, but advancing social entrepreneurship on a wider scale.
Beautiful. Yeah, so go ahead, tell us some of the things that you're doing to actually to change the system and to lift everyone up, all the women up.
Yes, so I can say we're a big fan of puns at WISE, the WISE team. So we have a lot of punny initiatives. We have our World WISE Storytelling Project. And this is an initiative where we really aim to tell the stories of over 200 women within our network. So like I was saying before, in all of these different spaces and including our fellows. And we really want to tell these stories so that people can understand more what we mean when we talk about scaling deep. And for us, this is a very reflective process because women have told stories for generations to make change. That's a scaling deep model for making impact. And so we want these stories to be really engaging and really something digestible and fun and something that can engage a wider audience on what we mean when we talk about these terms like scaling up and scaling deep. And that will be both in print and online. And we have the ChangemakHERS community, which you mentioned before, and which I am the community manager for. And ChangemakHERS is really an online space where we want to cultivate a global community for women within our network. And we want to encourage collaboration and connection and help give women better access to opportunities for funding, for events they could be speakers at, things like that. And for me as well, this is really scaling deep because women and creating collaborative spaces for women is so key. We are the most able to advance one another's work and to understand one another's work. So connecting women and connecting women, especially who are within the innovation space, is quite important for advancing, scaling deep, and the sort of social impact we want to realize. We also have this Wise Up series that we try to have on an annual basis. We actually have, I can say, coming up at the end of this month, a Get Wiser Summit as part of this series, where we're really trying to focus now on, all right, we've introduced these concepts to the world, what tangible steps can be taken? What commitments can we get from people? How do we move from rhetoric to realization? So we have this event series.
When is that? What are the details on that?
That will be March 23rd, 24th, and 25th.
Okay.
And in celebration of International Women's Month. And we also just want it to be a joyful space. I think we've reached a point in the pandemic where people are tired and people are exhausted, and we want something to really excite people and to remind people of what's to come and the hope we have for the future. So that will be something this event will hopefully serve as well.
Good. Perfect. There's another initiative that I shared an article that you co-authored today on Facebook, and it addresses this bold action for women in social entrepreneurship, and it looks to be a collaboration between WISE, the Schwab Foundation for Social Entrepreneurship, and Catalyst 2030. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Certainly. So for us, it's really important that we work with other innovation networks to recognize the change we want to see. So Schwab and Catalyst are both two organizations that are also leading incredible work within social innovation spaces. And for us, it's really important that we all work together for this goal of changing definitions of success and advancing women. So this initiative is really one that works to advance women on a wide scale and through an intersectional lens. So we realize that we cannot make change if women of color are not being supported, if women with disabilities are not being supported, if queer women are not being supported. So this bold action for women in social entrepreneurship is really a pledge between leaders within the innovation ecosystem space to shift the way we understand, define, and measure success and the way we support women social entrepreneurs. So for our three organizations, we're hoping it can really be a launch off point for other organizations to join in this call for action and to join into this movement. And there'll certainly be updates with it. We're still in the planning stages of a lot of activities around it and potential future things to come out of this bold action. So I'll be sure to continue sharing updates as it evolves.
Good, wonderful, that's exciting. I would love if you could just share a couple of the stories of some of your women fellows and what they are doing, because it's extraordinary. And so are there a couple that just stand out that you'd like to share so that we can really get a sense of the type of work that's happening through Ashoka and the Changemakers and the WISE initiatives?
Yes, for sure. Oh, there's so many women fellows
Yeah.
who are just leading incredible work that inspires me. One whose name always comes to my mind first is Morgan Dixon, who's one of our fellows who's based in the U.S. She's leading this initiative called Girl Trek, and it's all about getting women of color walking, getting Black women walking to save their own lives and for their health. And I think that her social impact and the idea behind her initiative is so incredible because it's a simple idea. It's this idea that we can form these walking groups and we can get women together to walk and to save their own lives. And she took something that's so simple to implement, but such an amazing and such an inspiring and exciting idea, and really has just grown so much and has been someone who is always so good for me to point to with whys. Someone who is really just can always bring more women into this movement. There's so many ways that it can go, and I think really exemplifies scaling deep. She's really changing mindsets about what it means to be healthy, what it means to be able to be within a community of women. So she's someone whose work stands out to me.
And what an important piece at this time coming out of COVID. And so, to be focusing on your health and building your immune system and what you can do to actually keep yourself healthy. So the timing is amazing. I know she's been around for a number of years because I've been familiar with her organization, but great. Yeah. Terrific stuff.
Yeah, I encourage anyone who's listening to this to please look up her work. It's incredible. And I think also with the storytelling initiative, there'll be so many incredible stories of our women fellows to look out for. So I'll be sure to share that as well, because every time I read a new story about the work that our woman fellow is leading, I'm just so blown away by the different ideas and the different systems level impact. Another fellow I could bring up is Sue Riddlestone, who runs this organization Bioregional based in the UK, and she helped to get one of the UN SDGs accepted, and her organization has created a format for living sustainably that can be applied by corporations, that can be applied by individuals, and that can really be formatted to different spaces. So what Bioregional attempts to do is to really change the way we think about sustainability and our ability to be sustainable and whose onus that's on. And so she's led incredible work within the sustainability movement and with giving people access to tangible toolkits they can utilize to become sustainable. And the work that she's done with different companies especially, I see as quite revolutionary. I think that one of the biggest barriers within the climate and sustainability space is climate nihilism, or a feeling that we can't accomplish these things. So she's really changing mindsets around that, around what we're capable of within sustainability spaces. So I also encourage anyone to look up her work as well. It's Sue Riddlestone Bioregional. It's also incredible. I could give a million examples. There's also Drew Billamoria, who is the founder of the Catalyst 2030 initiative. Okay. Her work is incredibly inspiring. She has done so much work in the innovation space for so long, and Catalyst is her newest initiative that really aims to create a global community of focus towards achieving the SDGs. So these are just a couple examples off the top of my head of some of the incredible fellows and work that we have going on.
Fantastic. It is so inspiring. And I know you love your job. I love my job too, because I get to hear all the good news, and I can tell you do as well. Just reading their stories is just incredible. So how can what I'd love to know, how, for those that would like to stay in touch, or how can we support Ashoka? How can we support the social entrepreneurs? And how can we stay in touch so that we can continue to get to hear this good news that you're sharing with the world?
I say join the movement, join the WISE movement. I think that for one, I'm so open to anyone who's interested in joining. I think that it's so important that we have as many people as we can get on board. On a more institutional level, I think the number one thing we can do to advance these women and advance WISE is to start to change the way we understand success and the way we measure success. And that comes by really thinking through the indicators we use. So I encourage anyone in a position where they're working within the philanthropy sector, or someone who's listening to this call to reflect on this and to think through these impact measurement systems that we've relied on for a while, and how they can be updated and shifted. And I think that Ashoka is such an open, welcome community, and we're open to anyone. I'm happy to give you my email to send out after this call to anyone who's who's interested in connecting around WISE. I can also say that we have a website, so that's a great space to connect as well. And through these events, and also once the storytelling initiative is launched, through that as well, we want it to be quite interactive and to get audience engagement through hashtags and through social media posts. So I'll be sure to keep you, Elisabeth, updated with all of that so you can share.
Yep, fantastic. And I have been joined many of the WISE gatherings, and it is so wonderful and inspiring. So I'm happy to be part of that community. So we've already touched on so much good, but this is how I love to end these conversations. And so I'm going to go ahead and ask you anyway, in these uncertain and challenging times, what is it that brings you hope?
That's a great question, and I think important to reflect on right now. There's a quote by Charles Dickens that actually I come back to a lot. It's it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. And I know that's a simple quote that a lot of people probably know from English class, maybe in 7th grade. But it's something I think about because it's good to remember that at any point in history, you know, we've gone through intense hardship and we've also come out of that intense hardship. And that's something I remind myself of because so many of the solutions we have today are solvable. It's not a question of what we need to do, but figuring out how to do it. And I think that we have come so far and we have so much further to go, but that excites me. And I think that we have what's needed in place. We just need to do it. And those are things that really give me hope in these times. The knowledge that there is space for growth, but we've grown in the past and we can grow again. And that we're always going to be in some level in a state of flux. I think that that's part of what it means to be human. But at the same time, too, we will always be able to move forward. And that's something that I remind myself a lot.
You're absolutely right. And you know what that is? This is evolution. This is the way it goes. There will always be room for growth, and that's the exciting piece of it. But you also make a really, really important point that I don't think a lot of people realize is many of our solutions already exist. Many of the issues that we're dealing with, solutions are out there, but we need to, that's always been my goal with Op Partners is let's focus on those solutions and let's get more funding and more support for those solutions. And that's exactly what Ashoka is about. So thank you so much. This has been an incredible conversation and so excited about what you're doing and the initiatives that you're involved in. And I can't thank you enough for sharing that with us, Claire.
Thank you so much for having me on this call, Elisabeth. This has been wonderful. It's been great. I love talking about WISE and sharing what Ashoka is doing. So anyone who's listening, please feel free to get in touch with me. I'll share my email with Elisabeth to send out, and I'm very, very, very happy to be here.
And what is the website if they just want to go and connect with you through there? Can they go directly to the website? Whoops, did you lose
Yes, it is. I'm pulling up the URL now. It is ashoka.org/en.eg. So I can send that to you to share out because WISE is housed right now on the Ashoka Arab World website.
Okay.
And I'll share the URL of the storytelling as well once that's launched.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you all for being with us. Please be sure, we've got a couple more interviews this week that we're excited about. So please be sure to be with us tomorrow when our topic is conscious business and disrupting the retail supply chain. This is really going to be fun. It's a great conversation with Cindy Jones-Nyland from To The Market. So until then, be bold, be daring, be audacious, and I will see you soon. Much love.